1995.
Hi.
Hi.
She has been called America's sweetheart, the golden girl of Hollywood whose smile could light up a room and whose talent turned ordinary scripts into box office gold. But behind the laughter, the charm, and the effortless success, Sandra Bullock's journey is a story far more complicated than the fairy tale image the world once believed. From a childhood spent between Germany and the United States to a meteoric rise in the 1990s, Bullock seemed unstoppable. She won over audiences, conquered the box office, and even claimed the film industry's highest honor, an Academy Award. Yet just as she stood on the peak of triumph, betrayal and heartbreak threatened to tear it all away. How did Sandra Bullock rise from a shy little girl to one of Hollywood's most powerful women? And how did she survive its darkest storms? She has been called America's sweetheart, the golden girl of Hollywood whose smile could light up a room and whose talent turned ordinary scripts into box office gold. But behind the laughter, the charm, and the effortless success, Sandra Bullock's journey is a story far more complicated than the fairy tale image the world once believed. From a childhood spent between Germany and the United States to a meteoric rise in the 1990s, Bullock seemed unstoppable. She won over audiences, conquered the box office, and even claimed the film industry's highest honor, an Academy Award. Yet just as she stood on the peak of triumph, betrayal and heartbreak threatened to tear it all away. How did Sandra Bullock rise from a shy little girl to one of Hollywood's most powerful women? And how did she survive its darkest storms? After finishing high school, Sandra Bullock seemed destined for a traditional path. She enrolled at East Carolina University to study drama, but restlessness soon consumed her. Chasing her dream, she dropped out just a few credits short of graduation and moved to New York City, a leap of faith that would define her future. In Manhattan, the road was unforgiving. Like countless hopeful actors, Sandra waited tables, attended auditions, and studied under renowned acting coaches. She performed in off-Broadway productions, often for little or no pay, building her craft in the shadows of theater stages. Small film roles trickled in, forgettable projects like Who Shot Patakango, and minor television appearances that kept her afloat but didn't make headlines. Her persistence, however, caught the eye of a casting director, landing her a role opposite Sylvester Stallone in the 1993 action film Demolition Man. While critics dismissed the movie, Sandra's natural charisma and humor made her stand out. Hollywood took notice. Then came 1994. Cast as Annie Porter, a sharp, quick-witted passenger in the high-octane thriller Speed, Sandra exploded onto the global stage. Her chemistry with Keanu Reeves was electric, and the film's runaway success made her an instant star. Practically overnight, Sandra Bullock transformed from an anonymous waitress in New York to Hollywood's newest leading lady. It was the breakthrough every actor dreams of. But for Sandra, it was only the beginning. The young woman who had once felt like an outsider was now firmly inside Hollywood's most exclusive circle. The success of Speed catapulted Sandra Bullock into the Hollywood spotlight, and she wasted no time proving that she was more than a one-hit wonder. Just a year later, she starred in While You Were Sleeping, 1995, a romantic comedy that cemented her status as America's sweetheart. Audiences adored her warmth, humor, and authenticity, qualities that set her apart in an industry often defined by glamour and artifice. Throughout the late 1990s and early 2000s, Bullock became a box office powerhouse. From Practical Magic, 1998, to 2 Weeks' Notice, 2002, she displayed a rare versatility, balancing light-hearted charm with emotional depth. Her role as an undercover FBI agent in Miss Congeniality, 2000, turned into an international hit, grossing over $200 million worldwide and making her one of the highest-paid actresses in Hollywood. But Sandra's career reached a historic high in 2009, taking on the role of Lee Ann Tuohy in The Blind Side. She delivered a performance that resonated with audiences across the globe. The film earned more than $300 million and brought Bullock the Academy Award for Best Actress. Standing on stage, Clutching her golden statue, she seemed untouchable. The girl who once felt like an outsider was now Hollywood royalty. And yet her career had more triumphs ahead. In 2013, Alfonso Cuarón's groundbreaking thriller Gravity pushed her to new artistic heights. Acting almost entirely alone on screen, Bullock carried the film with raw emotion and physical intensity. The movie grossed over $700 million worldwide and earned her another Oscar nomination, solidifying her as both a commercial and critical force. At her peak, Sandra Bullock was not just a star. She was an institution, a woman whose name guaranteed success. But just as she stood at the summit of fame, the ground beneath her personal life was about to collapse. For years, Sandra Bullock seemed untouchable. She was adored by audiences, respected by her peers, and crowned with an Oscar. But in 2010, at the very peak of her success, her private world crumbled in a scandal that shocked Hollywood. Sandra had married Jesse James, a motorcycle builder and reality television star, in 2005. To outsiders, their marriage appeared unconventional but solid. Hollywood's sweetheart with a rugged rebel. Yet just days after her triumphant Oscar win for The Blind Side, tabloids broke the story. Jesse James had been unfaithful, allegedly with multiple women. The revelations ignited a media firestorm. Headlines that had once celebrated her victory now feasted on her humiliation. It was a cruel twist of fate. One week, Sandra Bullock was holding an Academy Award. The next, she was enduring one of the most public betrayals in modern celebrity history. How she responded, however, defined her character. Rather than unleashing anger or seeking revenge in the press, Sandra chose silence. She filed for divorce quietly, retreated from the spotlight, and poured her focus into her adopted son, Louis. For many, her dignity and restraint turned her from a victim into a figure of strength. But the scandal wasn't the only storm she faced. Sandra had long battled the darker side of fame: intrusive paparazzi, obsessive stalkers, and the relentless demands of Hollywood. The loss of her mother in 2000 had already carved a deep wound in her personal life. Now betrayal threatened to break her completely. Yet Sandra Bullock endured. In an industry where scandals often destroy careers, she weathered the storm with grace, refusing to let gossip define her. Instead, she would rebuild, not just her career, but her entire sense of self. Out of heartbreak, Sandra Bullock forged a new identity. In the years following her very public divorce, she stepped back from Hollywood's glare, devoting herself to motherhood and quietly rebuilding her strength. Her son Louis became the center of her world, and later she expanded her family by adopting her daughter, Layla. To Sandra, family was no longer something she dreamed of. It was something she created on her own terms. Professionally, she re-emerged stronger than ever. In 2013, she reminded the world of her comedic brilliance in The Heat alongside Melissa McCarthy, while Gravity the same year proved she could command both audiences and critics with a performance of staggering intensity. She had reinvented herself not just as a movie star, but as one of Hollywood's most resilient survivors. Beyond the screen, Sandra's generosity further reshaped her image. She donated millions to disaster relief efforts after 9/11, Hurricane Katrina, and the Haiti earthquake. She became known as much for her philanthropy as for her films, using her fame to make a difference. The reinvention of Sandra Bullock was not about chasing a new persona, but about embracing authenticity. She emerged from scandal wiser, tougher, and more private, yet still radiating the warmth that made her beloved. In surviving her darkest chapter, Sandra didn't just return. She redefined what it means to be a Hollywood star. Sandra Bullock's legacy is not simply measured in box office numbers, awards, or decades of stardom. It is measured in resilience. She has become one of Hollywood's most enduring figures, an actress who could make audiences laugh in a romantic comedy, cry in a heartfelt drama, and hold their breath in a sci-fi thriller. Few stars have shown such versatility, and fewer still have maintained such universal affection. But beyond her talent, Sandra's true legacy lies in her strength of character. She faced betrayal, grief, and the suffocating pressure of fame. yet emerged with grace and dignity. She proved that success is not defined by avoiding hardship, but by rising after the fall. For fans, Sandra Bullock is more than America's sweetheart. She is a symbol of courage, authenticity, and survival in an industry built on illusions. Sandra Bullock's journey proves that even in Hollywood, where glamour fades and scandals burn bright, the heart of a true star can outshine it all. Call to action. Like, share, and subscribe to Stars and Scandals for more untold Hollywood stories.